Welcome to the Guys Podcast. This is your host, Chris Poole. Just want to give you a quick thank you for checking us out. We'll be releasing content weekly, so check us out on all streaming platforms. And if you have any questions, remember to email us at theguyspodcast@aol.com. Enjoy the show.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Guys Podcast. Every episode, a group of guys discuss topics that are most important to us, which is sports, gaming, pop culture, and relationships. For any questions, you can email the Guys Podcast at aol.com. Again, that's the Guys Podcast at aol.com. And today we have a very, very special guest with us, Pastor Kevin Pullam, who just graduated a Master's of Theological Studies degree, and he is currently pursuing a doctoral degree in the education with an emphasis of counseling. So,
Welcome.
Exciting stuff.
Thank y'all for having me.
No, pleasure of having you.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
So, Chris, you want to go ahead and lead it off?
Yeah, so we're going to start off with sports like normal. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl recap. We didn't emphasize before, this is a bonus episode, so we're going to release 2 episodes this week. So we appreciate y'all if you're checking us out. But like I said, we're going to start with sports and talk about the NFL, just Super Bowl recap, and then talk about kind of what to expect looking forward to next season. I'll start off since I was the closest to the prediction in episode 1.
No.
31 to 21 was my prediction, sir.
Okay.
You're right. The final score was 31 to 20. I just want to say there's
Pretty
nothing
accurate.
more that I need to say, that I predicted exactly what I thought was going to happen. And that's all I got to say. I think Patrick Mahomes is obviously special. I was watching on and off because this is probably the least interested I've been in a while, just because I don't like the 49ers very much. And the Chiefs are kind of just like iffy. I like to use them at Madden, but I mean, I wasn't that interested. I watched the halftime show or whatever, but I thought obviously he did a great job. He put on for the what is it? What am I trying to say? But everyone says that like black quarterbacks are runners or they can't throw, they're not accurate, and he kind of proved that he can do everything that you need him to do. He's mentally tough. Every time he gets down, he seems to find a way back. So I was definitely impressed with him.
Yeah, I seen a highlight where he took a pretty good hit and then just came back with another touchdown.
Yep. Right on the goal line.
He's tough for a quarterback. He's tough for a quarterback because usually, quarterbacks don't try to take that contact, but it looks like in the highlights, he looks like he was about that action. I didn't actually watch the Super Bowl, but I watched the recap, and it looks like he was in the action for sure. He seems like he's fierce.
Pretty inspiring. Go ahead. It's pretty inspiring. It's pretty inspiring to see him not only play on the field, but I like his presence on the sideline, like how they show him, like motivating all the guys. Like even when they get down, they can get really behind. Like even in the playoffs, like he was just like, "Come on, man, we got to get back, keep your head in the game. We got to get back into it." And then I was reading in a recap of the Super Bowl that this is the first time all season, I think they said, that he threw like 2 interceptions, and they were down, and he still came back. It was just he went hard. He just went hard. It was crazy.
No, it's absolutely ridiculous. And that stat alone, he came into the game with 11 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. 11 touchdowns with 0 interceptions in his postseason career. And like you said, he threw two interceptions during that game, which rarely ever happens. Like you said, it doesn't happen.
Right.
And you don't capitalize on that? That's ridiculous. That's crazy.
Gotta be quicker than that.
I would like to say that I did predict that the 49ers would get out to lead early.
I'll give you that.
And that the Chiefs were going to come back and win. I did not want to go for a score, so I didn't say a score. But yeah, I fell asleep on the Super Bowl. Bro. I'm not even gonna lie. Like I got back from church, ate at Luby's, had the Luann chicken with some mashed potatoes, some green beans, and mac and cheese.
Oh, you caught the itis.
And I was out, bro. But I woke up
and fried fish.
Yeah, and fried fish. But I woke up and I woke up right before halftime. Then went back to sleep. Then woke up like I think with a couple minutes left in the game, and I heard the announcer saying that they had come back, and I was like, oh, it's kind of what I expected. Wasn't really super interested in the Super Bowl this year. I just didn't find the appeal. Apparently, it was one of the like highest rated Super Bowls in recent history, though. But yeah,
I wasn't that interested in either team. I'm a Dallas fan, obviously, but I did want the Chiefs to win because of Mahomes. It is Black History Month, so I'm not being very culturally biased, but at the same time, young African American male out on the fields, inspiring. And then when I found out from an old head, not even 3-4 days before the game, that the Kansas City Chiefs actually used to be the Dallas Texans.
They did.
And then they moved. Yeah, so like I really started like pushing for them. Like, oh, they from Dallas. Okay, good.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, I didn't know it until like a couple of days before the game.
Yeah, I'll talk about the 49ers and their lack of the terrible coaching. We can just say it was terrible coaching. You're very great at running the ball. You need to run the ball to get the clock going, and you fail to do so. So I don't know what exactly their game plan was. They're trying to sneak attack. It just, come on. Go ahead.
The funny thing about it is early in the game, they were actually successful on every run in the first quarter. They were looking like, man, they about to kill the Chiefs with this run, and then they stopped.
It's just bad coaching.
Okay.
Kevon like got a lot.
No. I have a lot to say. I'm gonna first start off by saying my predictions from preseason was that the Chiefs were gonna win the Super Bowl. Just from what I've seen the season before, they should have won the Super Bowl last year, but one offsides call kind of ruined their season, and the rest was history. After that, New England won the Super Bowl. But this preseason, I predicted the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. Once it got closer to playoffs, I switched my prediction. I thought it was going to be the Baltimore Ravens, so I'm not going to sit here and say I was riding with the Chiefs all year. But I did predict that the Chiefs were going to win. I don't remember my prediction that we did episode 1, but I know I had Chiefs up. I said it was going to be a low-scoring game. But I think that this Super Bowl is way more exciting than what people were thinking, or way more exciting than people are saying it was. It's season 100. You have a historic team like the 49ers that no one thought was going to be in the Super Bowl, that got to the Super Bowl. Right. They were 4-12 last year, and they finished 13-3 this year, which is a huge turnaround. Kyle Shanahan did an amazing job all season coaching that team up to get to this point. I like their style of play, that 3 running backs that they had, and the way they utilized them with George Kittle. And I'm not really big behind Jimmy G, but he stepped in and did what he had to do. Yeah. But back to the Super Bowl, I understand what you mean, Chris. That it was bad. You think it was bad coaching, but at the same time, let them have hit that last play with Emmanuel Sanders. And they scored that touchdown, and they win that game. All this talk about bad coaching would be non-existent.
What you mean, but you talk about leading up to that point as well. Like, even if you take that shot, you take it after you're running the timeout, if that makes sense.
Yes, but they led the whole game. They went into the fourth quarter with a double-digit win or double-digit lead. So I don't feel like anything was bad coaching. I feel like they just simply got outplayed by potentially the best player to ever play in the NFL, who is Patrick Mahomes. Just like Pastor Pullam said earlier, the man threw 2 interceptions. He came into this game throwing 0 interceptions in the postseason, 0. And San Francisco did not capitalize on those 2 turnovers. You got to put points on the board after those 2 turnovers. You have to. And then we can get back into another time in the game. It was right before half, and they called that pass interference or push off on George Kittle downfield, which I feel like was a soft call. And I feel like that's definitely a game-changing play or game-changing call, because yes, it might have been a full extension of his arm, but I don't feel like there was a push off there. But that's that's football. You have calls like that. But yeah, Chris, I don't really think it was a reflection of bad coaching. I just feel like Mahomes is the man. He stepped up. Despite having 2 interceptions earlier in the game, he came back strong and won them the game in the fourth quarter. They were in the fourth quarter down double digits and ended up winning that game by double digits and are crowned Super Bowl champs of Super Bowl 54.
I
I feel like that was exciting.
Yeah, I think that the game itself was exciting. What I meant to say is that I was not excited to watch it before it started. So like
Yeah.
the game itself ended up being great, but I was not motivated to watch it.
I get that too, but at the same time I was because I just wanted to see what the 49ers have good history in Super Bowls. They won 5-1. They lost a big Super Bowl against the Ravens and ended their perfect record in the Super Bowl. And I just wanted to see what Mahomes was gonna do in the Super Bowl. And um, like I stated earlier, man, I honestly think he might go down as the best, not one of the best, the best player to ever play in the NFL.
So
And
since
That's a bold prediction.
it is a bold prediction. It is very bold. This is only year 3 for him. Look at what he did, though. Year 1, he did not start. Year 2, he started. He threw 50 touchdowns and, forgive me, it was either 12 or 7 interceptions. 50 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. It was 12 interceptions because he had the same as Trubisky. 50 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and went to the AFC Championship game. Could have won it, but ends up winning the MVP that season. Comes back the next season, threw for 5,000 yards, and his first year starting, second year in the league. In his third year in the league, he takes his team to the Super Bowl, wins the Super Bowl, and then gets Super Bowl MVP. Who does that in their first 2 years starting? Who in their first 2 years starting wins the MVP of the league, and then they win a Super Bowl the next year, and then gets the Super Bowl MVP?
That's true.
Like that's greatness. And he's 24 years old.
I just can't really give it to him yet because
Right.
he is very good. It's just there's so much more to play, for one, and then for two, the system that he's in was kind of like perfect for him. Like that's one of those right place, right time type of situations. He has some of the best receivers, fastest receivers in the league.
He has fast receivers. I'll give you that.
He has a coaching staff that is innovative and open to exploring new options for him. And I like his line is decent. Like he has all the weapons around him that set him up for success. So I mean, I'm not gonna say that he's not a great quarterback. He's definitely gonna revolutionise the position.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's too early for
it is too early. And I'm not trying to sound crazy, but at the same time, what he's doing and what he's presenting to us is crazy.
Yeah,
and to have those predictions is not so far fetched. And I think what you're saying about he fits the system. I feel like Patrick Mahomes is the system. He can fit anywhere. You can put him on anything, and he will be any team, and he'll be successful. Do I think that Tom Brady could play on any single team and produce what he produces? No, I honestly don't think that. I feel like you can put Patrick Mahomes on any team. I'm talking all the way from Miami to New England to Green Bay, and he will produce. Look what he did in the Super Bowl. He threw 2 interceptions. What did he do? He kept his composure. He stayed calm. He made plays with his feet, and then he made plays with his arm. The man's the truth, bro.
Hey, you know why he's the truth?
What if I asked you? We need to move on because we're going over time. But what if
he's the truth because he's from Knicks?
What if I asked you? What if Aaron Rodgers was playing on that team? Would they win the Super Bowl?
Okay, so the question you're asking me is
switch them.
Switch them? Okay. Well, let me say this before I switch them. I feel like Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers are the same person. I feel like they're
Aaron
completely
Rodgers
the same.
is more gifted, has a more gifted arm.
You can say that,
accurate.
But Patrick Mahomes is 24 years old. But I would say they're the same.
He's that young?
He's 24 years old, bro. He's 24 years old. I feel like him and Aaron Rodgers are the same person.
He's gonna go hard for a while.
Yes, exactly. And that's the only thing that's going to stop him from being the greatest player is getting injured, or because I don't think he's ever going to fall off. But if Aaron Rodgers played on that Chiefs team and started the Super Bowl, yes, they're gonna win. I'll say
Likely.
that. But it's not. But at the same time, I feel like Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback ever. That's my opinion. But no, I feel like just what Patrick Mahomes did in that Super Bowl, man. He started off shaky. He did something he's never done before, throw 2 picks, and he still keeps his composure and comes back and finishes the game. And there was a stat also that I know we're going over time, but 3 games in these playoffs, the Chiefs have been down points, and they came back and won by double digits in every single game. Going into the second half down double digits, and they come back and win by double digits. That's just absolutely crazy. Congrats to the Kansas City Chiefs and Andy Reid for finally getting a Super Bowl. You deserved it.
As the guys podcast guest, I have one quick question for everybody. As a Super Bowl reflection question: who had the best commercial?
Oh, I didn't watch any commercials.
The Pringles commercial with Rick and Morty.
Who had the best show, Shakira or J-Lo?
J-Lo.
Shakira.
You said
Shakira was lip sync.
She didn't sing.
She was lip singing. I'm gonna say Shakira.
They both
for one reason.
Yeah,
I wasn't listening to any of it.
But at least J-Lo pre-recorded her set and sang along to that. Shakira was going straight from the album, like the studio quality.
Well,
bro, but you gotta understand, bro, in that type of capacity and that type of, bro, not everybody can take the chance of the mess ups and the mistakes.
That's what they're paying you for,
especially when. But I'm saying with
they only get the best of the best. Cam, you look at the history of the Super Bowl performances; they're not getting no names. They're getting the cream of the crop, the best performers in the world. So why would it even be a question that you can't?
But you can be the best performer by making an informed decision to say, I'm going to go ahead and have my music back me so that I can perform in a way where I don't have to worry about my pitch and my key and dancing, bro. Performing takes a lot, bro.
She could have just danced.
Hey, can I just say
performing takes a lot, bro.
Beyonce didn't do it.
You're right.
Can I add one thing? All I know is she might have done all what you were saying, but I'll tell you one thing that she proved to me: them hips don't lie.
You talking about J-Lo?
No,
either
Shakira. Them hips do not lie.
Well,
we got to go on to. We'll just touch on this really quick, but I wanted to talk about it because we got my dad in the podcast, and he's kind of had a bigger perspective in terms of the beginning of like video games and how it's kind of evolved and become so big.
All right, we're gonna skip over the 2021 predictions.
Yes, we're gonna skip over the 20. We'll do that in a future episode, but we're way over. Oh my gosh. In its inception, video games kind of started with Pong, and a lot of people don't know that video games stemmed from a lot of the things they were experimenting with in World War II. So like they were making a lot of machines, a lot of equipment, and they kind of made a lot of gains and advances in computers because they needed to be more accurate with their missiles and things like that. So Pong was kind of the beginning, but I remember it really didn't start. Pong really got popular much after it was originally invented because it was not like out for the consumers. So since then, obviously we know that it's just blown up. There's been many different iterations of consoles, from Nintendo, Sega, Microsoft, smaller brands that kind of haven't really that they put like a one system and kind of just get into there.
Don't forget Soldier Boy system.
Knockoff system. But yeah, just kind of talk about how we've seen it grow in our lifetimes, and I'll start with our dad, so he can he's the oldest, so he can kind of see it.
Well, I mean, obviously with Pong, you go back to Atari. So I remember when it first started. So literally Pong was like, it was so simple. There was nothing to it, but just like you would roll a wheel and move that line to bounce the ball back. But then, it went from there. Like you said, it just kind of seemed to evolve right to, it went to Galaga, Centipede, and then Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, Millipede, like that whole era, man. Like it was crazy. Then you had Donkey Kong. Then Donkey Kong went to the Mario Brothers, and then when you went to Mario Brothers, I think that's when he started to get to Sega Genesis and some other consoles. But man, like now what y'all play, man, I could never play that many buttons and that many things. It's like crazy. But to see, you know, since the very beginning of its inception, like everybody was polarized by video games. And so like it seemed like every Christmas for at least 2 or 3 decades, man, that was like the biggest thing. Who was going to come out with the newest game or the next console? It's just been cool to see.
And actually, going back to some classes I was taking in art, the inspiration for video games was pinball machines. So back in like the early 1900s, 1913, I think is around the year where it took off. Pinball machines were kind of like seen as, oh, this is kind of like, what are the kids doing? They're out playing pinball machines. So it's crazy to think that like back then, pinballs were seen as like hypnotizing, and now.
Well, here's the funny thing about it. Where y'all grew up on Trojan, there's that Dairy Queen that was right there. In the front of the Dairy Queen, there was 2 pinball machines, and then they had a pinball machine and Centipede, and then they took out the other pinball machine. It was Miss Pac-Man and Centipede, and like absolutely, man. 'Cause like we used to go up there with the Forders and play the pinball machine. It was just like cool, and then like all of a sudden you just saw video games. It's like nobody thought about pinball machines at all.
And now no one thinks about. It's just crazy how the evolution of games, and it used to be where it took a while for it to phase out. Now we're in such a quick media cycle where games, if they don't put out good content a month after it comes out, no one is gonna play it anymore. Which is, it's insane to think that I'm paying all this money for something that is not lasting. So I think we just come to an age where media is so available to people,
right?
That
and
it's,
that's a cool thing about it now too, because like back then at the earliest stage of Atari, you could only do so much. Like you literally had they had Pong, then right after that they had like a not Battleship, but it was something like Battleship. It was like some tanks that you would shoot at each other from 2 sides. I forget the name of that game, but like those are like the best graphics you could get at home. In order to play Galaga, Centipede, Pac-Man, all those, you had to go to an arcade. So like from my generation to y'all's, the difference is it's like you can do everything at home or online with other people. You don't ever have to leave your own office or gaming spot or home living room, where back then like you had to go to the video game spot. That's why it's weird now, like arcades are really not like they used to be, because everybody
I'm sorry there, but I find it kind of funny that video games and digital graphics are advancing so much, but they still feel watered down, because even in the way that you describe playing the pinball machines and the Pac-Man and the Galaga, it feels just, you can feel the richness of what it was to actually play those games, and it gives you those memories and those feelings. And it's like now we have these super advanced games, but they don't give you that same enjoyment. Like Chris says, you end up buying the $60 game or even $100 game if you're buying, map packs and all type of other, extensions and stuff like that. And you don't even end up playing it because it doesn't capture you in the same way that I feel like the more simple things capture you, in ways where it touches different parts of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that kind of speaks to how I think video games have evolved. I think they've gone from more of a niche type thing, like where only a small group of people were playing them and developing them for the love of gaming, to now I believe video gaming is now like the #1 highest grossing media platform in the entire world, entertainment platform in the entire world. So now video games is about the money for the developers. Right. And so when you get the final product, it's not really about making the best game they can make for the love of making the game. It's about putting out a game that people are going to buy and that they can monetize heavily so that they can make as much money as possible. So I mean, it went from originally, just like Chris said, people like developing Pong in their off time working for the military, to like stuff like Pac-Man, Galaga, where like 3 or 4 people were making it, and they were making it because that's what they love to do. Now it's gotten so successful that they're just trying to figure out how they can make the most money off of it.
Well, it's a very fine line, but I also want to take it to like a sociological level when it comes to the video games, because now when you play a video game, everybody's in the room, they're on the battlefield together, everybody's got a gun, and like literally, or Need for Speed, you're racing each other. So right now it's a actual, everybody's engaged at the same time simultaneously playing, and literally I can kill you, I could take you out. Whereas back then, early on, like with Pac-Man and bringing up and Centipede for examples, I mean, it was still competitive, but like you would play your 3-man,
the paddle,
and then you pass it, and they play their 3-man, and you just go by who had the highest score. So you just, oh, let's play again then. Come on, let's play again. You know, like you just trying to like just one up everybody. It's not like I'm killing you, you killing me, and then there becomes this seemingly like big wigs in the game now, like, you know, oh, this guy, he's good, like he'll kill you, like, you know. And so you can come into those games and you can still be emasculated, or you can still be, you know, quantified, just humiliated. And so I mean the competition's a little bit different. I mean taking other people out, opposed to just like, man,
and the fact,
yeah, go ahead.
Right, and then it's like there's guys that, like you said, you don't have to leave to play a game. You can literally sit in your house and have access to the entire world. So you got these guys that literally don't go anywhere, do anything, and they sit and they play these games, and they get so good at these games, and to the point where just an average consumer of video games like myself, if I was to hop on a network and play, man, I'm getting killed. I'm getting squashed.
Not even fun.
Right.
Yeah, boo-bopped. Yeah, but I feel like your dad said earlier, though, how you would have to go to the arcade to go to play. Like, I feel like that social environment back then was probably so cool. And
right.
It was probably tight. Like, and then like you were saying, how you'd go down there and play Galaga and you play Pac-Man, and to have your name as the high score down there, and you
right,
the
bro,
top dog of the arcade. I always want to feel like how that would feel to be like the man around the town. Because now when we look at leaderboards, it's worldwide, and
right,
it's you're not going to hit number one ever because it's just so hard to chase. But like, you go down to your local arcade and, you know, you're putting in all those quarters and your time grinding, and then you get the number one spot, and everyone's trying to go down there and beat you. Like, I feel like that'd be like a cool little feeling back then. But your timeline though on those games was definitely on point. That's how they came out.
Oh, okay.
From Pong, sure. It was dead on. It was spot on.
That's crazy.
Well, that's what I used to play, but it was 30 years ago.
Yeah, so from your perspective, what is the golden age of gaming?
From my perspective?
I mean, whoever wants to chime in.
Oh.
Well, I feel like
I know,
like how you did.
I feel like the first generation. I mean, I could go back to my era, the nostalgia of it, but I really do believe, like, once I had y'all, I think that first generation PlayStation going into the second, I think it was still the rawness and the purity and the fidelity of it was still connected to my era, and kind of started to move into y'all's generation. But then by the time it got to 3, 4, you know what I'm saying? Like now, you know,
you said PlayStation 1?
I think it's he said PlayStation 1.
I
think it's PlayStation 2.
PlayStation 2.
I'll tell you why.
As I said, PlayStation 1 going into 2.
I think 2 is where it went, because you look at the numbers. PlayStation 2 is still the highest selling console ever. And it just the amount of fidelity in the graphics shot up, but it still had like Blink's the Time Sweeper. It had it had Blitz the League, and it had Grand Theft Auto at that time. It had NFL. It had it had everything. Games. And so that's where it was still reaching back to the people that were still playing games like on the Nintendo 64, the Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, all those games. And now reaching forward, like, man, look at these graphics. Look at NCAA football 2003, like that game.
And Need for Speed.
I forgot about
But,
Nisha.
I feel like for me. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No.
I feel like for me personally, I love the Xbox, the original Xbox.
Well, yeah.
And then and I feel like that's when it kind of shifted more so where it's like your console had a little more capabilities as far as not just gaming, where you can have your music and you can, you know what I mean, kind of do things outside of that. So I feel like, I don't know, Xbox, it just had more of the fonder moments, like playing Halo and stuff like that,
Fusion
multiplayer, playing online, Fusion Frenzy, bro, you know, so stuff like that where, like, looking back, and I know just our childhood, that's a huge memory that we have with me and my brothers.
Because it had the advancements that it needed to have a little bit more technology graphic, but it was still for everyday people. Like, to me, I mean, I know I'm 48 years old, but I would like to get into video games again. You know, I got free time, just be at the house. But now it's like, it's not, well, I mean, it's possible, but video games are not now for everyday people like they were back when it started. Like, now it's for professionals, people that are online making money, you know, making, you know,
facts,
web pages and everything. So, like, you know, like, I don't want to get in and
where do you fit into all of that?
But there is casual play games, and and a lot of other games there is casual play.
They're just not the money isn't pumped into them. So
you'll
never hear
you'll never hear about them.
But back to, can I go back a step though? Like how your dad said, I gotta agree with him though. I feel like the turning point in gaming was the PlayStation 1. I agree with you. The PlayStation 2 is probably the biggest and with the, you know, the heaviest games on there. But PlayStation 1 was literally like a game changer.
Yeah.
PlayStation 1 was when they started. That's when Sony broke off from Nintendo and made their own thing, and they brought up the idea of CDs to Nintendo instead of cartridges.
And they said
they said no.
They said no, it's dumb. Like, why would we do that? They're gonna scratch. Kids are not gonna take care of them. Cartridges are doing just fine. And Sony tried to explain, like, look, you can do so much more with these CDs. They're faster. They hold more. They hold more storage. You can have better graphics on them. They didn't want to listen. So what did Sony do? Made their own system, and now look at it. PlayStation is Nintendo's #1 competitor. You know what I mean? Like,
they're thrashing them.
Actually. Exactly. At this point, and that's why I have to agree with your dad, because when the PlayStation 1 came out, it was just so different. They're like, man, what is this system? Oh wow, CDs. Like, all we know about is floppy disk. What is a CD? And then now look, everything is disc. Besides Nintendo, still holding on to those cartridges.
Bro, that's what I appreciate about Nintendo is, like, you still have that classic feel with Nintendo. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It kind of keeps you down to earth. You know, like, but it's nice to just get away from.
It is, and that's what I was explaining in our last podcast.
Episode,
how Nintendo is literally that system where you can kind of get away, like your dad was saying, how he wants to just game, but kind of game in a casual manner and not sit here and keep up with sweats all day, and give him a chance to actually learn the game. Like, Nintendo's a perfect system for casual gaming, and I will say that. And I will say, like, with the older games, like Tetris, Super Mario, Donkey Kong.
I'm forgetting about Tetris, bro. I forgot about Tetris.
Tetris too.
Second biggest game of all time.
Yeah, it was so
I think it's first. I honestly think
it's
first.
Minecraft.
Is it Minecraft?
Yeah.
Bro, but my thing is, look, bro, as old as Tetris is, it's still relevant, bro. You can go to the App Store right now and get Tetris.
I literally just downloaded the new Tetris app 2 days ago.
Tetris Blitz. And no, but like games like that, those games are never gonna die, and that just shows you like how are these games from way back then still living, and something so simple is so fun, and just kind of gives you like a little bit more respect for the game. But and same with Pac-Man too.
This is aside from I mean, it's in the same topic, bro. What PlayStation did we get for Christmas?
That PS2, bro.
That was a PS2. That's what the whole game. That's what the whole game changed.
It wasn't me. Don't say my name.
Caleb.
That was me and you, bro.
You want to give the play-by-play on that one?
Okay, so for one, I'm gonna blame Corey. All right, because
I think he'll disagree with that.
He set up the PlayStation on a box speaker, bro, that was wobbly. Bro.
Y'all broke it?
And he had the cord running through the middle. Running through the middle of the den. All right, so me and Karen, we hype, we're playing around, you know. I jump on Cam's back. Cam said, "Get off me." He trips over the cord that Corey's playing. I think Corey and Chris are playing the game. Trips over the cord. It falls off the wobbly speaker. The speaker falls over, hits the ground, and it's gone. So the second that we had it, we were playing NBA Live 05, the dunk contest, bro.
We had just got it for Christmas, bro.
That day.
That day.
It wasn't me.
We all got it.
Was there any punishment?
Was
there a punishment?
Okay, so in 2020 on the guys podcast, let me say that if they I did go hard. Everybody had to line up. Everybody got heated with the leather, but I will say this: when I grew up and matured, I really wouldn't have handled that way. I really wouldn't. If I had to do that all over again, it's like, man, they were kids. I mean, they weren't thinking about it being on.
I respect your answer.
No, I'm serious. But at the time, literally, we had stood in line for like 2-3 hours at Walmart. Then we had to put it on layaway because we were doing, we had our kids. We was living day to day, and we had paid on it. So we were so happy, like we got it. And then I kind of forgot about that, man. Like,
it wasn't me.
So then they were like, she was like, "The boys got to tell you something." Tell me what?
Wasn't me.
Said, just try not to get mad, but there's something wrong with the PlayStation. I was like, "What? There's something wrong with the PlayStation?" And I was like, I thought it was just gonna be like scratched up or like something knocked off of it. They're like, "No, it's broke."
Wasn't.
But yeah.
Wow.
What were you gonna say, come on?
I would have did the same thing.
No, I respect your dad's remorse, but I'm not gonna say he was right or whatever. But I'm not gonna understand. Bro. I'm just gonna say that's justified.
That year, I don't know what year that was, but that was when it came out.
It was 04.
It was,
man. It was
like when it dropped.
It was the hottest thing ever.
Right.
It was broke. I was like, I'm not getting another. I'm not buying another. I promise you that.
We didn't get another one.
I think we eventually got another one.
It was later on.
Wait, it was a PlayStation 3 or 2?
It was a PlayStation 2.
It was a 2, bro. It was the fat PlayStation 2, bro. The original one.
Wow.
Man, we definitely tweaked. Yeah, we definitely tweaked.
Y'all.
I love stories like that though, man.
But the way it happened, bro, the way I remember it, bro, there was already other little, you know how kids do like other little stuff, you kind of just let them slide. He kind of was like, nah, you know what? He said, nah, yeah, y'all all gonna get it now. Cam, you want to be over there talking back in class, huh? Okay, your grades slipping, okay. Now you just bringing stuff. Now it's all just coming together. Like, man, yeah, we had this one coming. We had this coming.
Man.
And we were all lined up. We were all lined up in the hallway, and you just and you hear it, and then they come out. And they walk off, go on about their business, and then you like, man, I'm next.
Hey, where was Kevin?
Okay. Okay, so
she didn't get nothing.
Man, I'll be picking up the door like, ooh.
So I pray that with the Child Protective Services,
the statute of limitations.
The statute of limitations has been exhausted. Y'all giving me up 16 years later.
The statute of limitations. So we're gonna move on to pop culture.
Hey, before we move on, Chris, real quick, I just want to take time out to bring notice to our sponsor, Carmex. Thank you,
okay.
Hey, go ahead. Go ahead and edit that out.
Nah, that's free branding for them. They can have it this time. But we're gonna go on to pop culture. Where's mine at? I don't got Carmex.
Yeah, there it is.
Somewhere.
I know it. Hey,
Hi, Kylie.
Only reason why I have the tube today is because chapstick.
Hi,
Yeah,
Kylie.
go ahead. No, you don't bring that out, Chris. Only reason why I have the tube is because they didn't have the stick at Dollar General, so I had to do the
I actually like that better. But in Texas, that becomes a problem when you leave it in
melts
in the summer.
I left mine on the heater accidentally, and it was actually the stick that I left on my heater on the side of my bed, and the chapstick melted out through the bottom of where you twist it. And when I went to go open it up in the morning, there was nothing in there, and it was just all on the heater. It's crazy. Right, you want to move on, Chris?
Yeah, so we're gonna go on the pop culture, or this is actually kind of music, or not kind of. It is music, and we're talking about the best era of music, and you can be as specific as you want, or like broad. I'll start off and say that I don't even think it's an era. I think it's a year, and that year is 1985. I think 1985.
Okay,
is my choice for the top.
You want to drop some
That's
titles?
my error.
I'll just pull out. I'm just gonna type in Google 1985 songs, and we'll just go down the list of why I think this is. Now it's not all black artists, so don't get mad at me now. But the first one that pops up, "Everyone Wants to Rule the World." "Don't You Forget About Me." Sheila. "We Built This City." "Crazy for You," Madonna. It's loading more songs. "You Give Love a Bad Name." Aha, "Take on Me" was there. "All Night Long," I believe, was that year. Just so many songs, and I'm saying that doesn't mean that they're all like the greatest songs of all time, but just consistency of every single song that you can think of is insane. Of 1985 being that year,
It's some heat.
For me personally,
I was a freshman in high school, by the way.
It's mid to late 90s R&B specifically.
Okay.
Mid 90s.
Mid 90s to early 2000s R&B. That's just for me personally, because there's so many just great artists and just classics that I can't use my computer to look up like the songs specifically, but like, yeah, go ahead, Chris.
You said R&B.
Yeah.
So
it's
like
it's just
Usher, like "You Make Me Wanna." Like you can just go artists: Usher, Destiny Child, TLC, Whitney Houston was still putting out music, Maxwell, SMV. That's not really R&B. Jagged Edge, Babyface. I mean, there's a lot of good artists.
Yeah.
I would say.
Oh, go ahead.
I would say that you could literally pick any area and find like a plethora of major hits. But for me personally, because of my age and my era, I would go the range that he used. I would go backwards, and I would say from 1988 until about 1995, 96. That you just have just a wellspring of stuff that was coming out, because what happened is a genre was introduced through Teddy Riley called New Jack Swing, and it just and with that you had Devontae Swing, who was with Jodeci. Then you had Albie Shore. Then you had the whole P Diddy clique, the early ages of it though, with a group called Intro, and then SWV. And just that particular pocket, things just started. Mary J. Blige, every camp was coming out with theirs. So you had the P Diddy camp. You had like the Babyface and whatever his name is. They had a camp too, but like everybody just started putting out stuff just left and right. It was crazy.
If I could pick a year to be born, I'd probably pick around like between the 70s and 80s. Because I feel like if I would be into the disco, and like that psychedelic era.
You had to have been born in the 60s.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
Music like
disco was 70s.
I want to give a shout out before we move on to
please
to the classical era, and the
What do you
Romantic
mean?
era. I'm talking Beethoven, Bach.
Yeah.
Because if you really think of of the musical
different genres stuff.
If you think of the eras of music, none of this really even exists without those frameworks of music. And people could look back and listen to it and say, "Oh, this is boring." But if you really think of how genius it is and how they were able to
still play today,
how they were able to think of this stuff without technology. Like they weren't going and like looking up YouTube tutorials of how to make beats or how to or looking or going into the studio with all this technology like audio.
Yeah, you're talking about
digital.
They created all the definitions for music.
Yeah,
they did it all by ear.
So I think the better question is, what is the worst decade for music?
Let me get my first.
Right now
to 2010.
Right now,
no. 2010. You gotta think Lil Wayne is in that era, bro. You can't do that like that. You can't do the 2010 like that.
He don't save them.
Maybe 2010 to 20.
Beyonce. Okay, let me get my best out real quick before we go into this. The best to me.
Turn the music up.
The best era. Chris, what's the best era of music, bro?
The 85. You about to say Drake?
You about to say tens? You about to say the tens?
We got to look back, man.
What about JT?
The golden oldies. The golden oldies, man, is my favorite era of music. Yes, the golden oldies, man. It's
50s and 60s went hard.
Yes, and I get what your argument is, Chris. When you think of music like that, you think of segregation and stuff like that. But what I think of is when, yes, that stuff was going on, but also you had a bunch of white people screaming all over these black singers and artists, and kind of throwing that view of color out the window. But I also feel like a lot of the artists that you named off earlier in your little 80s raid came from the 60s. That's where they started from, in the 60s.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson with the Jackson 5. Just like look at and all the Motown, all that stuff, man. It's I feel like that's some good music, man. That's the music that you can sit down to and you just listen like, man, this was in the 1960s, and you just listen to the recording and the music. It's like, man, like they were.
I think it sounds good. I just it just puts me in a weird place of like, man,
you don't like the era. I get that. I get you don't like the.
I just feel like
what
it wasn't
the culture was
like there was. I'm not gonna get to it. That's a different episode. I'm not gonna get myself.
But listen, let's just hear me out though. Queen, John Lennon, the Beatles. You had the Beach Boys, Righteous Brothers with
Isley Brothers, Dance Band, Gap Band,
Isley Brothers,
Earth, Wind and Fire.
Exactly. The list goes on and on. But Righteous Brothers had one of my favorite songs. Probably one of my top 5 songs ever. And that's Unchained Melody. You can just listen to that song and just shed a tear. Such a beautiful song.
And let me give it this before you get away from it, Chris. Let me just give a disclaimer because that 88 to 95 range that I gave y'all, I have to give a disclaimer because I know it's a controversial subject right now, controversial personality.
I already know what you're going to say.
But R. Kelly,
yeah.
I mean, his first work was Born in the 90s. He was right in 1990. In 90s when he came out with She's Got That Vibe and Honey Love. Those are like on the first album, and was Born in the 90s. And you know his music, you know, I know he did what he did, and I'm not going with that at all. Like he was wrong, it's just wrong. And you know, matter of fact, when you talk about his very first song, She's Got That Vibe, in I think 1990, 91.
Aaliyah got that vibe.
You know, he's Shaquita's got it. Aaliyah's got it. Like Aaliyah. Like when I listen back to it now, like man, she was like 12. Like what are you talking about?
That's weird. And he calls himself the modern Pied Piper or whatever.
Yeah, Pied
Piper.
Yeah.
But his music is.
I know,
but that was all that New Jack Swing era when it started taking off. Then even when you get to Michael Jackson, Remember the Time?
That was New Jack.
Yeah.
That was New Jack, and it came from Teddy Riley, who. Yeah, it's just that whole era, man. And then that was right before Timbaland came in, right at the end of the New Jack. And then he was with Missy
Elliott.
Missy Elliott. and then Aaliyah recorded "One in a Million," like with that whole the transition of that era. I feel like it moved from one genre to another.
I'm not trying to. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to drop any jaws right now. But who's Teddy Riley?
Okay, Teddy Riley was with Guy, and also what was that other group he had after Guy? Blackstreet.
Okay. I know Black. I know. Okay. I didn't know he was in Blackstreet. I know who Blackstreet is though.
Yeah. No, Guy was early on, but he was considered to be the inventor of that genre of music.
Okay.
Yeah.
I never knew who Teddy Riley was. I hear like even like newer artists talk about Teddy Riley. I believe even like Soulja Boy mentioned Teddy Riley before. So he's like a legend, like a GOAT in the industry.
Speaking of Soulja Boy,
he would say his era is the only era of music.
I think that 2010 era of music, that I think that was the worst era of music that we have seen.
It's either that.
I think we're in the worst era of music.
Either that
bro.
or 10 to 20.
Nah, 10 to 20 has some
Come
bangers,
on, man,
bro.
Drake.
But
I feel like
1920 to 1930 was trash.
Bro, I feel like
had to be. What was that? That was the jazz. That was the jazz.
They was doing that thing.
Jazz and blues.
The swing,
bro.
swing
But I just
era.
feel like the new era of music, bro. In music, there's always been talks of like, gang activity, criminal activity, poverty-stricken, lifestyles and stuff like that. But it wasn't to the point where now it's just glorified to just want to be this
like it's cool
person that's off the perks.
Whoa.
Sipping purple and smoking weed and all. It's like, it's junk, bro. The music that we listen to in our generation now, and the culture and our culture is just.
I agree
it's
with
scary,
that.
bro. It's scary.
I agree with that, but I think there's been a musical renaissance.
Yeah, I will say that.
Like people like her.
Facts, bro. Facts, though. Facts.
Chance the Rapper, J. Cole,
Kendrick,
like
Smino or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
I mean, now this is what I'll say about all of us. If you are a connoisseur of music, if you have any type of musicianship or instrumentality in your background, reality is that the debate will never end about eras and genres of music. Because if you love music, you're gonna find in every era a group of people that they're not like anybody else.
Those pioneers.
I mean, go back to what Kavan said. I mean, then you go back to that era and you think about people like Miles Davis and Coltrane. I mean, those guys, were writing jazz pieces that now everybody's sampling. I mean, they were playing that stuff like raw,
Jimi Hendrix.
Man, like they were just doing it. So, I mean, every era is they have equality in a lot of senses from a musicianship point. But I would happen to agree with Cameron because there's a lot of tracks now. I mean, I'm older now, but I hear all the trap stuff. I hear everything. I'm agreeing with Caleb and Cameron because when I listen to just the track itself, man, it's some major music out right now. I mean, it may different technologies and stuff, but from a musician's point, it's man, that's hot. But then you listen to the lyrics, it's come on, bro. Are you really talking about getting high and dropping in the Molly and some girl's drink and it's man,
just goofy
15 hours. Is it 15 hours till I land? It's man, you're glorifying drug use.
That's your man. That's your man.
Sir, can I stand in for a second? What he was referring to was there was a prescribed Xanax that he took, and he only took half of what he was prescribed to take for that airplane ride, and he couldn't handle it. That's what he was referring to. He went to sleep. But no, I do agree with you though. No, I do agree with you though. When they do say stuff like that, it's so ignorant, and it normalized drug use. We went from calling people crackheads to being one. I don't understand why you think it's cool to pop Xanax and Percocets and do all these prescription
then all the
drugs and become
females
zombies.
Then all the females are self-objectifying themselves. Man.
And that's why I don't mess with Cardi B. And I had this conversation with my barber instructor earlier, and she's a Latina woman, and she does not rock with Cardi B like that because she feels like the way she puts herself out there in those ways. And she's like, she respects the fact now that at least she's married, and she like puts out to the culture that it's okay to be married, and it's cool to be married and to be with your husband and to be with your wife. But like outside of that, and the certain things she talks about are kind of just like, why put yourself out there like that?
Good segue to relationships, Chris.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about this is gonna be a long episode. So we're talking about what we think makes relationships last and continue to grow. So what I was kind of thinking when we wrote this is like, how can you not get bored of the same person, and how can you continue to cultivate and grow that relationship even though you continually are around the same person? Like, what keeps it from getting stale and then just being over with? So I'm not gonna start.
I just feel like for you to say that, the image that I get when you say cultivate and grow a relationship, I feel like no relationship ever stops growing, whether it's good or bad. It just either grows in the way that you care for it to grow in, or it grows in the opposite direction. You know what I'm saying? So nothing ever stops growing. It just grows in the way that you know what I mean? It's all about the maintenance of that relationship.
Let's talk about the positive. Like, how do we as men, and how do others that might be listening, what can they take away to help them if they're struggling with growth in their relationship?
I think communication is key.
Absolutely.
You can't have a healthy relationship if you don't communicate what you're feeling, how you're changing, what you're thinking. I mean, you can have a relationship and you can just go through the motions. You can have a healthy looking relationship on Instagram and Facebook, but if you're not actually talking to this person and communicating with this person and understanding where this person is in their life and how their insecurities, their fears, their goals, these are things that are so in humanity that, I mean, these are, if you don't communicate these things to your significant, it's not understood where that person's goals are and where you are in yourself. I don't think it's possible to continue to grow in your relationship.
It's funny though, like for me personally, like of course, you know, I could point out certain things that I've learned or discovered, like just trying to have a successful relationship and maintain a relationship. But like the funny part is, I couldn't tell you why or why not, like why it hasn't grown, or you know what I mean? I just feel like relationships are tricky. You know what I mean? I feel like what's meant to be is meant to be, and sometimes like you don't have the answers, or you know what I mean? So sometimes I feel like I said, relationships are going to grow how they grow. You know what I mean? And if you can't maintain it in the way that it should, you know, in unity, you know, it just ain't going to work.
Right.
For me, in my perspective, I think that all that stuff is kind of like the base level. For me, when I envision like a relationship that's fine but could be better, I feel like a lot of times it's space, and that the perception is that when two people are together, they always have to be like hanging out and doing everything together. And like a lot of the young people that like live together with their significant other, that like they don't get away and take time for themselves. So like I see a lot of women, it's typically women because I am friends with males, that get upset with their boyfriend or whoever because they want to just kind of relax, chill, do their own thing, hang out with their friends or whatever. And I think that that's important to the balance, that we have to be confident in our own relationships outside of this relationship in order to have a healthy relationship. And it also is like it's important to be friends with someone before you are taking that next step, because at the end of the day, there's going to be times where you just are upset, like you are not in that zone of like, man, this relationship is kind of like a lot right now. Whereas if you're a friend before then, you always have that to fall back on. And it's kind of weird to bring it up like with guys, but like me and Kavan could be like upset at each other, but at the end of the day, we're friends. Like we fall back on the things that brought us together as friends in the first place. So if you have that with your significant other, at the end of the day, you understand what the main thing is the main thing, because you've built those connections and that friendship before you took it to that romantic level. So it's always going to be a common ground, and it's not like you're only together because of that romantic side of it.
Right.
I just feel like, oh, go ahead.
I agree totally with Christian. I think that's sums up what I would have said or what I was going to say. I think I think that the the strength of a relationship is really predicated on the level of self discovery each individual has made before they come to each other. So self confidence that doesn't lead to later on insecurity or distrust. I think that if two people have already discovered who they are as individuals, as adults, as whatever, then they come together in those natural realms. Just he's being himself, she's being herself, and they click, they vibe on a friendship level. It's not romantic, it's not physical. A lot of times, when we out in the field or whatever, we always see. I think a lot of times people always see relationships as, oh, that person completed me, or that's what I needed for myself. This is a fundamental idea, but I mean, you have to feel whole in yourself before you come to that relationship. So the two wholes come together, and it's like, oh, well, I needed you to do this for me, and I needed you to do that for me. I was trusting you to be this. I was trusting you to be that. Well, I mean, you know what? No disrespect. This is really a very respectful and timely and ironic thing that I stumbled into. But like, with Kobe, I know that his wife and his children that are remaining are broken, in a sense of loss and lostness without him. But at the same time, we as men, and we as people, when we come into a relationship, we have to understand that, hey, like Chris said, if we're not seeing eye to eye, we're not really agreeing, we're not really vibing right now. But at the fundamental root of the matter is we got so much in common in our natural states that, now Kobe being ripped away from her, I would hope that in time that he celebrated so much about her, she celebrated so much about him, that respectfully, if y'all understand what I'm saying, there still will be life for her at some point without him, because it said in the interview that he had done, it's like, well, who's your best friend? He immediately said, my wife. That's my best friend. And so it doesn't have to do with, the sexual part, or even the fiscal, financial responsibility part. Like, a lot of times I think we whisk away and we throw relationships on all of that other stuff rather than, like Chris said, just flat out, we're friends. That was the basis. We were friends first. We're nothing else. We're friends. We have no money, if we have no sex, or, something happens, why are you tripping? I mean, we're friends. We always were. You can be you, I could be me. You can do you, I can do me. I can go play basketball with the guys. You can go to paint and sip with the girls. And, that's what I loved about you, because, we found those things interesting in each other. I'm running on, so I better stop.
No, that was great.
Yeah, I feel like that was probably one of it still is, a struggle of me and Isha's. Like, we were always, friends. And even when, like, me and Chris and Darian, Caleb, we'd all get with her cousins and stuff and brothers and whatever, and we kind of just all hang out. It was always good energy. So it was never, it was never on a sexual level. It was never intended to be that. And it kind of just led to that based off of just having a genuine friendship.
Right.
But I feel like her being younger, I'm younger, we have whatever going on in our separate lives, and to come together spontaneously or sporadically, and then have to try to figure out how can we now keep together what we've created for ourselves and still be able to balance still figuring out who we are as people. So it was like a struggle of, okay, yeah, I know we have kids, or I know we have a daughter, because it's been a process, where it's kind of been a struggle back and forth. Well, should I stay or should I go? Should I go and just be selfish and do what it is that I want to do and live how I want to live? Or do I stick it out and figure out how can we mend all of the pieces together, put everything together and make it make sense? And it's finally getting to the point where now it's feeling like we've given each other the time that we've needed to kind of develop who we want to be, but still appreciate though, you know, I don't know. It's like it's a complicated thing. Like it's just like parenting. There's no manual. There's no book that tells you, you know, how to like be in a successful relationship.
Yeah, I think that's
kind of trial and error.
Go ahead, Dan.
Go ahead. No, somebody said I think that's.
I think that what you said was powerful in that you need two people to be happy and content with themselves. And a lot of times it's like, oh, they're the source of my happiness. Like, that's what keeps me going. It needs to be that you are happy in yourself 100%, and that they complement your happiness, not that they are the source of.
It is definitely. I'm sorry, but it is definitely unhealthy for a person to put all of their trust in another person to provide them happiness. If a person, if you're everything, you know, yeah, that's not healthy, and it becomes it's not attractive.
Don't hold me responsible for making you happy.
It's not fair. It's impossible.
Because you know, I talked about this. Caleb, of course, said the Bible said I'm not going to do religion, but you know, true love, agape, is to allow the genuine love you have to be the fuel to always be striving and straining to do something for the other, because of your love. You want to fulfill them and give them their desires and their wants and everything, and then that other person is doing it in the reverse. So then, to me, a real love relationship is I amplify your happiness, I accentuate your happiness, I foster your happiness, but I can't create your happiness. Mm-hmm. If you're not happy with your past, with yourself, with your demons, if you're not self-reconciled, if you're not self-consolidated, I can't make you happy. You know, I can probably make a moment, you know, or events, you know, and a lot of times, you know, relationships, you know, we talk about lasting, lingering relationships. If a relationship is event oriented, where, you know, I just have to plan the next thing, where am I going to take you, what I'm going to do, what I'm going to buy you, or are we just sugarcoating and kind of icing over the fact that, you know, if I can't do those things, and it's like, oh, well, I thought you were in my life to make me happy. No, you know,
it's the 21 questions.
You ought to be happy. You know, you ought to be happy. You know, that's just where I'm at with the whole thing, because it's too cumbersome. It's too hard to have to always be trying to be a better circus act every day. Like, how can I one up myself to keep this person happy? I mean, who you are makes me happy. Mm-hmm. That's what it ought to be, and who I am ought to make you happy, and then everything else is just a cherry on top. It's just a bonus.
Cabana, you got anything?
Yes, I mean, pointless following that up because it's everything was just covered. But I mean, like Caleb said, communication's key. Everything your dad said, man, that is just eye-opening to me, and that literally just made me think. And I'm going to continue to think all night after hearing that.
Matter of fact, I got all these books back here. I'm working on a book right now. I'll just kind of throw it out there for the people who are going to watch the guys podcast. It's called His Needs, Her Needs. And it talks about building an affair-proof relationship. And he opens up this book talking about love banks. And he says everybody in life, friends, family members, your boo, you know, girlfriend, boyfriend, marriages, everybody has a love bank, a bank account. And every day, every moment, you're either making deposits or withdrawals. So what happens is when you're dating and you're courting, most times you're just adding deposits and the love bank account level is going up. But then once you start to intermingle your lives and you make commitments, you know, you have children, etc., you know, you make career choices, you both support each other when you're going to school. So then every time there's tension or stress, then there's a withdrawal. And then he says that, you know, what happens is that you may end up with other friends, other places, whereby you're with a spouse or a very exclusive relationship. So now y'all fight a lot. So every time y'all fight, there's withdrawals being made, whereby there may be somebody at your job who compliments your haircut or you compliment your dress. So every day they never make they never make withdrawals because they don't have to pay bills with you, they don't have to raise kids with you, they don't have to change diapers and teach kids how to walk or nothing like that. So every day, you know, y'all talking in the break room during lunch, deposit. So now their bank account is at $2,500, but at home, his account is overdrawn. And he says, then
that's real.
Then that's like a major issue. Like sooner or later, people you don't even plan on having feelings for, but because they got more balance in your account, see what I'm saying, than the person you with. So that's another way to make a lasting relationship. You have to be careful and be mindful of, you know, at least for every withdrawal I take from this relationship, I'm making at least that much deposit so that we're never overdrawn.
Yes.
Man, for everyone listening, that is some.
Just drop the mic. Just drop the mic.
I'm just saying, like, it was deep. It was deep for me. I was like, man, like.
That's
I
crazy.
feel like for me, it's been, you know, fairly difficult. And I don't say it in a disrespectful way or in a degrading way, or, you know, in an offensive way, you know, in a hurtful way. But I was dealing with a broken woman, you know what I'm saying? And for me, I'm a broken person. I feel like we all have broken parts of ourselves that we have to mend in some way. But there's certain cases where some people may be more broken than others. And for me, I feel like I'm the type of person that gives the energy that I receive, and I give and I give and I give. And I feel like it feels as if it's not possible for me to run out of the energy to give. But at some point, it became very difficult for me to want to continue to give the energy because I felt like I was being drained of all of the energy that I had to give and all the love and it's just patience and understanding. And it's like, for some people, dealing with broken people and people that have those needs and the more higher demanding requirements, it could be a difficult thing. And
that was deep what you just said there, because a picture came to mind, because you hear the saying all the time, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Yep.
So in this particular relationship context, you know, there's nothing wrong with coming in contact with broken persons, because all of us are broken in some way. So when we come into a relationship with a loving other half or other counterpart to the relationship, then that helps me in the areas of brokenness that I have. But the thing about it is that when we come into contact with broken things, broken people, my obligation at that point in partnership with you is to lead you to the well. You know what I'm saying? To lead you to the source to help you in your healing. But I can lead you to the well, but I can't be the well. Because then you're sapping and draining and drinking from me as if I'm the well of your healing, of your restoration, of your replenishment. But ultimately, I only have so much. So, you know, as you pull from me to try to fill that void in your life, now there's something in me that's empty. So we both have to find ways to lead each other to those sources of healing and not trying to be the healing ourselves.
I think that's what I appreciate about being in a long distance relationship right now with someone that I'm fairly serious with. Although it is difficult to work through being in a long distance relationships, one thing that I do appreciate about it is the fact that it makes you understand that you're at some point going to have to recognize how to work on yourself. And how to do the things that are going to make you happy. It's not always going to be because it's not, the relationship is not healthy just because we're together, we're having fun, just because like you're there. It's really about, like, she's working on getting into medical school. I'm working on finishing my master's degree, and I'm doing things that make me happy. Things that I have fun doing. She's doing things with her friends, going out, doing all of these things. And I mean, at first it was kind of keeping tabs on each other. Like, what do you? I mean, it's been months and months and months now, and now it's like it doesn't come to having to keep tabs on each other, having to have each other on the phone all the time. It's really more about being supportive of each other, understanding what we're going through, and being able to have those kinds of communities, not depending on each other to be happy. We're not there physically to make each other happy. We have to understand that our relationship is more about us growing and connecting with each other, um, and not really about what you're doing with other people, not about your personal life, because we're both individuals. We have made a commitment to, we made an agreement to come together and do these things together. And so once we realize that it's really about just physically being there for each other, but we can actually be people too and still be in a relationship with each other, I think that actually,
I'll speak to add on that. It's been tough for me because I was not only have not only been dealing with like a romantic relationship long distance. Like every relationship that matters to me is long distance relationship. So like I think a lot of times the same is that it's a romantic relationship. I have to now cultivate and continue to grow relationships that are just personal. Like all of my friends, all of my family, everyone that I care about is nowhere near me. So like for me, this conversation goes like twofold. Like how do we cultivate those relationships and make them grow? But like how can I do that from like the only conversations I can have without physically driving, in most cases flying to my friends and family, is through things like this and PlayStation and phone calls and FaceTime. So it definitely is tough to do that and to keep it up, because I personally, if you look at love languages, I'm quality time. So quality time means like you get joy from spending time with someone, more than like physical touch or gifts or anything like that. So I just like spending time talking and hanging out, like whether it be virtually or in person. So I've been trying to find ways to maximize that, and it's just been a struggle to be away now from family. How many years has it been? Going on 3 years, and then obviously I graduated a year and a half ago. So I've been away from college. I went to Maryland, and so it's just been a balance of trying to maximize just for my own mental health of trying to like close the distance without physically closing the distance.
You know, I respect both what both of y'all just said, but I think that the encouraging thing that I would offer to both of you is having now dealt with counseling and advising relationships and people. Reality is that there are some people who live in the house with each other, or in the same city with each other, and are more distant than you guys are from some of your relationships. Distance, especially now that that book that says the world is flat, with technology like FaceTime and all the other mediums, the one that we're on now. But the actual resonance of a relationship between two people or a group of people, a lot of times, I mean, Caleb, I mean, that's from here to St. Louis. But reality is there's some people right now that we know not of. They're in the house or even in bed with each other right now. And you and Joni are closer than they are. So that's actually a part of understanding the self-discovery, respect for one another, and communication. Because, some people communicate a lot, but it's not constructive. I mean, I've known people in relationships, and I've been in relationships where there was always talking and fussing and reasoning and all that going on, but it never really was. It was conversation, but it wasn't communication. Especially we as guys, we know sometimes a woman can just go on and go on and go on and go on. She's talking, and she's talking, and she's going, and she's going, and 2-3 days, 2-3 months later, we still have never resolved the real issue. We never even gotten to the issue because communication is different than just talking. Because if you're not trying to find a point or get to the bottom of the matter, because a lot of times, you know, again, I'm not your issue. I mean, you know, you making me the issue, but the issue started way before you knew me, got with me, whatever. And I'm here, you know, I'm not here to, I'm not, Caleb, it's not Marshawn Lynch. I'm not just here so I don't get fined. I'm here because I want to be. I mean, I chose to be here. I chose to lay my anchor here. I'm committed. I'm here. So it seems like when I came and I decided to be that stationary, I became your punching bag. And that doesn't last. That doesn't lead to lingering and lasting relationships, because sooner or later, somebody going to get tired of getting punched. It's like, man, look, you know, I've been knowing you for a few years. You 30-something, 40-something, 50 years old. And now you're trying to make it like all those dysfunctions you used to have are now my fault. So distance is a thing that can really, when they say distance makes the heart grow fonder, sometimes distance is a beautiful thing, because then you know how to respect that separation and distance, like you and Kayla, like you said. But at the same time, you know, you got your things going on, I got my things going on, you got your goals, I got my goals, but then you still find a common ground. That's really closer than some people who living in the same house but don't have any goals or aspirations outside of each other. And so then they blame each other for any discrepancy. Like, man, I don't want to carry that weight of like, hey, anyway, I better stop. I can go on and on. This is an all-night conversation.
The wisdom that our guest brings to the podcast is phenomenal.
Yeah, but it's also the run-on sentences, so you better. I know we better move on.
Cam, we can't hear you right now, Cam. I don't know. I think it's because you took off your headphones. But we're gonna go to our outro because we are quite over time, and we wanted this to be a little lighthearted. And Kavan and I were discussing the names that should be on this list, and it came down to a few people. But I think that this is a pretty solid list of One Gotta Go. So for those of you listening that may not know what One Gotta Go is, we got a list of 4 items. We have to decide which one we would get rid of, and that means that none of their work, if it was a food, none of it ever existed. So this week we got comedians. So our 4 comedians this week: Dave Chappelle, Richard Pryor, Chris Rock, and Eddie Murphy. So that means none of their stand-ups, none of their movies, none of their Saturday Night Lives, nothing would ever exist. With the one caveat that that career does not affect someone else's career. So if Richard Pryor clearly was laying the groundwork for the other people, so if you get rid of Richard Pryor, everyone else would still be who they are.
Okay,
that's tough.
Who wants to lead it off?
So we'll start off with one. You choose the first one you think is 100% staying for you.
You said movies though, Chris. That's
tough. I think.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
I think for me personally, Eddie Murphy's got to stay.
First off the board for you?
I think he's got to stay for me, because the movie series, Coming to America, like his stand-up was an all-time great with that red bodysuit on, bro.
That Michael Jackson, John?
I'm gonna get mine out of the way because I can do mine quick. I have 2 litmus. If movies were the litmus, Dave Chappelle's got to go.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
If stand-up is the litmus, Eddie Murphy's got to go.
Ooh.
That's my answer.
Can I piggyback?
Go for it.
I feel like, movies aside, even if Dave Chappelle's stand-up definitely holds enough weight for him to even surpass the movie.
I agree.
Stand-up,
wasn't that Dave Chappelle that was in was it the movie with Eddie Murphy? Was it Nutty Professor?
He was Reggie
in the club.
He was Reggie.
He was in the club. He was in the club. Yeah,
that's the only scene that I can pick.
Dave Chappelle, he might not be in movies, but he did have the Chappelle Show, And the
He
Chappelle
did that
show.
the Chappelle
was-
show.
So
But-
if I had to
bro,
keep
But
one person,
Chris Rock,
had-
Chris
everybody
Rock also had the
everybody
show
Chris.
before. No, Chris Rock had the Chris Rock
goes
show
hard.
before Dave Chappelle. So Chris Rock
he
had
had
a show
Everybody Hates
just like
Chris.
Dave Chappelle before Dave Chappelle.
and he had everybody
So
hates
first
Chris.
off the board for me, that has to stay is Dave Chappelle.
I agree.
That's just my personal preference. If you look at stand-up comedy, you could say Richard Pryor because he's the
Yes.
Godfather. But in terms of the last, what's it, 2020? 20 years easy, he's been the best,
The funniest.
best stand-up comedian.
Yes, by far.
And then he's been going much longer than that. I would just say he's staying for me. That'd be my first. Okay.
You're talking.
So I'm gonna hit a-
You're talking because of stand up
Because it's not, well, just funny person.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm gonna hit a Kavan on this episode. So y'all can play One Gotta Go, and I'm gonna play One Gotta Stay. Richard Pryor all day, bro.
Richard Pryor stays, bro.
There's no question.
Well,
This is
No question.
with stand up, I'm kind of on the fence, but and this is before you air. Y'all weren't even born yet. But if you look at his discography or whatever you call it, filmography, Richard Pryor in the 70s and 80s, I know he had at least 15 or 20. I mean, like how you started to see Kevin Hart and the chick, what's her name?
Tiffany.
Tiffany Haddish, like all the movies they've made in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. Like Richard Pryor was like the only guy back then, like making movies like 2 a year. I mean, so like, some of them are classics. You just can't bust and lose. Which way is up?
Yeah.
Okay.
You just can't get rid of him for the movie.
Okay, so I just looked through Eddie Murphy's IMDb, like his
yes,
discography.
sir. He's staying. Yes, sir.
Hey!
Yes, sir.
Bro,
He has to.
He has
to. That's what got me. If I was going off of just a straight
because I just rethought about it. I was like, maybe can't go, but nah, bro.
You talking about for movies or
Both.
for stand up?
Both movies and he's in.
His stand up was good, but
He's in
there's
everything.
there's like 2 of them. There's like 2 stand ups.
Like he's in
Better
what?
framing.
He's in Boomerang, Harlem Nights, Into America, stuff like that. But he's
That's
also
why I
in
said.
stuff
That's
like-
why I said with movies he has to
But,
stay.
but he's in. He's
But with
also
stand up
stuff
he can
like,
go.
He's also in kids
Bro.
movies like Mulan and Shrek. He's Donkey. Like
That's true.
Richard,
But I feel like, bro, for Richard Pryor, bro, he's just on another level.
He is.
Eddie Murphy,
yeah.
bro, I feel like he has good classic movies, but there's a bunch of movies that Eddie Murphy did that he should never even.
Look.
There's
I'm
some
gonna
movies, bro, that bombed.
Now, like, if we ever did this for basketball, it'd be the same way. Like, all of these people are top tier. Like, so this is very difficult.
You got to pick who's relevant to you.
Just who's relevant to me. Richard Pryor is the greatest of all time. But
Facts.
for me,
He's
he's
got to go.
got to go because Chris
Gotta
Rock.
go.
Chris Rock.
oh, over Richard Pryor.
Chris Rock stand up in my lifetime, and
Chris Rock was cold though.
he's a producer. Everybody Hates Chris is one of my top 5 of all time, and if that doesn't exist, I don't even know. Like, I couldn't imagine it not existing. What am I trying to say? When he ran for president, head of state,
Head of State.
the Chris Rock show.
Yeah, Pootie Tang.
he just had so many.
New Jack City.
He was just
Pookie.
he just, for me, like, now Richard Pryor, I think stand up. If we're talking
still-
stand up, I think Richard
No,
Pryor.
his movies.
I think
are
Richard
good
Pryor's
too,
movies
though.
are good, but I don't think he's a great actor.
No, he's
I
fired.
think everyone
He's
on.
fired.
I don't think he's a great actor. I think Eddie Murphy
He,
became
bro,
a great
I
actor.
feel like a lot of comedians, they act, they're funny, but they try to act and they overact. Richard Pryor had a way about acting where it was just
him.
natural. It
Brewster's
didn't.
Million.
No, only person that does that is Kevin Hart. Only person that overacts is Kevin Hart. He's not funny to me whatsoever. But I gotta go off what Chris said, man. I have to say Richard Pryor as well.
Y'all
I know, but it's when I'm looking at names like Dave Chappelle, and he's probably that's my childhood right there. I gotta pick him.
Caleb, look at Richard Pryor's IMBP or whatever that's called.
Yeah, I did. That's why I'm having a hard time.
Man, Richard Pryor's on a lot.
Because
This isn't easy.
It's
It's
not.
not easy. But I have to say Richard Pryor because Chris Rock and Eddie Murphy.
and y'all are not gonna like this. but culturally, for the impact that they had,
I'm throwing that out the window because that's not fair. Because that's not fair. Because Richard Pryor was probably the first African American.
No. But what I'm saying is like
white.
with their body of work, I gotta say, Dave Chappelle's got to go.
Ooh.
Just from sheer body of work. I'm not
Chappelle
saying.
Show?
If body of work. Yes.
I'm just saying, just body of
work. I
agree. His stand up is probably the greatest of all time.
Chappelle did a cameo in American Gangster when he was on stage.
Excuse me.
What I'm saying,
and then he was in that movie about getting high.
Yeah, what was that movie called? I can't remember what that movie was called.
With Mary J.
Dave Chappelle's peak.
Then he has like 3 stand-ups, and then Chappelle Show.
He had 3 stand-ups in the last 2 years.
Chappelle Show wasn't always good though.
It was.
It didn't get
canceled.
I feel like
only stopped running because
I feel like it a lot, bro. I feel that there are certain comedians. It's like because of the fact that they're comedians, you like kind of feel obligated to laugh about certain things. So for me, there's a lot of things like that said. For Dave Chappelle Show, it wasn't that funny to me. There was definitely
some
memorable
moments.
I feel that way about Eddie Murphy.
The black white supremacist was.
But I feel the same way, Chris.
Yeah.
Wait, what was that? What did he say?
The black white supremacist.
Yeah.
I mean, that was really funny, but everything wasn't that funny.
No, they had the race draft.
I can't find one that's not funny.
The race draft.
I feel like some of it's kind of like corny.
I don't disagree with you, but
and I feel like with Eddie Murphy too. Like Chris, like what Chris is saying, I feel like Eddie Murphy is not all that funny.
I'm going with Cam, Dave Chappelle, and I hate it.
So what's our conclusion?
I just think that
3 Dave Chappelle.
He's funny, but
Dave Chappelle goes.
Wow.
3 Daves and
Dave Chappelle.
When you think about what Richard Pryor, Chris Rock, and Eddie Murphy have done for the comedic world, especially in film, man, Harlem Nights, that's Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy.
I'm just saying that how Dave Chappelle's stand up is just so elite.
It is. That's why I didn't want to give
I think that it's
my generation will never give up Dave Chappelle.
We can talk about Kavan wanted to put Cat Williams over Chris Rock.
I was gonna say
Cat Williams.
We're gonna.
But he was in Boondocks.
Cat had a small window where he was funnier than everybody for like literally about a year and a half.
He had a run, but I thought that he would be everyone's got to go.
For our generation, I would say Cat Williams because it was.
My fault, Kaban. My fault. I don't want to I don't want to lose this. Okay, so we talk about the comparison. This is why I say Richard Pryor, because no matter what type of issues Richard Pryor had within his career, he was always relevant, bro. Black, white, it didn't matter. They were gonna watch Richard Pryor because he was funny, bro. He was that funny.
Has Dave Chappelle not done that?
He took a hiatus.
He's controversial.
He went to Africa. Bro.
Dave Chappelle, to me, he has a sharp mind and he's very witty in the way that he delivers. He's very efficient in the way that he delivers his comedy. That's what's impressive because he's good at what he does. But as far as being naturally funny, bro,
stop it.
I'll take a Mike Epps, bro. This is my personality. A person that's just kind of silly, naturally silly, and doesn't necessarily.
That's gonna do it for the podcast. Don't you ever disrespect Dave Chappelle like that.
No, I'm just saying, bro.
He's more natural.
I don't know about that.
I just like, bro. It's more the people, the type of people that don't try to don't try to be funny. They don't create jokes. It's just their personality.
So my original list was gonna be to take off Richard Pryor because he was such like a legend, and put Bernie Mac on the list.
Bernie
Mac.
He'd have.
Or we could have made a list of 5, but that would have been my other addition.
So Bernie Mac instead of
Richard Pryor, because Richard Pryor is kind of like untouchable in terms of he's the framework of all those other people, and I just seeing some bits that Bernie Mac did is just.
Can I do a on the fly? Can I do a on the fly? One gotta go.
Go ahead.
Go for it.
All right, Bernie Mac, Steve Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer.
Cedric later.
Cedric gotta go, bro.
He's got
Bernie Mac. Wait. Bernie Mac who?
Cedric.
Steve Harvey.
Steve Harvey and Cedric the Entertainer.
Bye, Cedric.
Cedric's gotta go, bro.
Bye bye, Steve Harvey.
Yeah, he gotta go.
Steve Harvey?
What?
Mr. Potato Head's gotta go, bro. He's the most
No, did you come on? Remember remember the
You know
bit?
what? You know what, Kevon? I can't believe I'm saying this, but I agree with you. Steve Mack would have to go. I mean, Steve Harvey would have to go.
Come on, remember the bit with Steve Harvey was talking about getting fired? He was in that yellow suit.
Said and Birdie go so hard.
They do, and that's why I said. And honestly, I think
Steve Harvey's more of a
host.
Just a well-rounded every scenario. But just
we're talking
straight
about as a comedian, or are we talking about like movies?
As a comedian, stand-up comedy, those other two guys are killing him every time.
Okay, well,
bro, I feel like with comedians, bro, there are personality comedians and there are character comedians. Like Kevin Hart plays a character. I feel like Richard Pryor, he was just naturally funny. Bernie Mac was naturally.
I wasn't ready. He's not that funny to stand up.
To me, he's not funny at all.
He's the biggest comedian of all time, though.
To me, Kevin Hart, he's
marketable. That's why.
Well, because of social media and tweet, like everything now, like he wouldn't been able to stand in like the Richard Pryor like that day. Like he wouldn't have been that.
How about Jamie Foxx?
Okay.
Cat Williams.
Okay.
Kevin Hart. I need a fourth one.
Kevin Hart. Bye bye.
That's tough.
So out of those three,
we're talking about original Kevin Hart when he first came out with like, "My mama told me to tell you." Original.
That was funny.
Original Kevin Hart.
I'm not because it's his whole person. I'm not just gonna put one stand.
And we gotta give him credit for his movies. They're not all trash.
I'm just saying.
Jamie Foxx. So Jamie Foxx, Kevin Hart, and Cat Williams.
Jamie Foxx got to stay.
Jamie Foxx got to stay.
I agree.
Because when he did that, what's it called, Chris?
The Brady Bunch.
I'm just saying for nostalgia, Kevin Hart can go because Cat Williams, man.
It's tough.
It might not be the correct answer, but Cat Williams, his stand-ups were probably my favorite of all time.
Yes.
In that green suit with the
oh man,
with his hair.
The Pimp Chronicles.
He's the Pimp Chronicles.
Man,
he said,
"It's pimpin'."
He said,
and he
can do this all day, every day, no problem.
And he was a pimp named Slipback on the Boondocks.
Mm-hmm. And he was a pimp in Friday After Next.
He's Friday
After the Next, man.
He played the choir director.
And next Sunday.
No, Mike Epps was the pastor in Lottery Ticket.
Lottery Ticket.
Man. So he can come here.
But that's what I'm saying. But you just tried to clown me for saying that Mike Epps was funny, bro.
He is nowhere near Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
I believe that Dave Chappelle is. I would say that personally, Mike Epps is funnier for me than Dave Chappelle.
It's apples and oranges.
It's apples and oranges. It's two different.
Because in the area of comedy that Mike Epps does, he's very funny.
He's a go.
And I feel like Dave Chappelle, he's more of a script. He's very scripted. He's very accurate, precision comedian where he knows how to put his puns. He knows how to place his. He knows how to revisit jokes. He knows how to put. He's a genius in the way that he.
So on the original list of one's got to go. Let's keep those four. I'm sorry to add another audible, but add Martin Lawrence to the four and have five.
I'm not a huge Martin Lawrence fan.
No, Martin Lawrence is hilarious.
Martin Lawrence is funny,
and he has a tank of movies too.
I agree, but I'm just not.
All the Bad Boys, Big Mama, or
his stand-ups back when he was back then.
Yeah,
and then when you go to Russell Simmons, what do you call it, Def Comedy Jam, like those few years that he hosted. I mean, just off the hip on the fly. If you see some of those clips, man,
that's true.
Like, dude was funny, man.
Shows you what shows their professionalism.
I'm gonna go ahead after taking everything into consideration. Dave Chappelle can go.
Richard Pryor for me.
It's gotta be Richard for me. I'm sorry.
I'm going with Dave, like I said originally.
I'm going with Dave.
I hate to say it.
So who do you guys think are the new kings of comedy now?
That's easy. Carlos Miller.
Carlos Miller. Trevor Noah.
Who's Carlos
Miller? Go ahead and sign us off.
Carlos Miller.
Carlos Miller. He was from Wild 'N Out. You got Chico Bean and DC Young Fly.
Oh,
they killing it, bro.
For the young people.
They're killing it, bro.
They're killing
it's
it
not
Facebook.
that.
So Kevin Hart's not even on y'all's list.
No. I feel like there's commercial comedians and there's those raw uncut. I prefer the raw uncut. So the Mike Epps to me are funny. I like the DL Hugleys. I like when people are just funny and they don't have to go and script it and they perfect it, and I like it more jagged, raw, and uncut.
Kev on Stage does have comedy specials. If you watch him, he is funny.
He's funny.
He's funny. So
hey, what is their whole group, like the YouTube channel?
Kev on Stage Studios. They don't do the All Def Digital anymore.
All Def Digital.
Yeah,
I used to watch the All Def Digital.
They don't do that anymore.
All those guys are pretty funny.
But they were the inspiration for this podcast. They do Righteous and Ratchet, Love Hour, all that stuff. So shout out to them.
Go ahead and shout them out. Yeah, shout them out.
So how long we been on?
It's been an hour and 40 minutes.
This is 2 episodes right here.
We can cut it into. I would just probably post it as one.
We could just re-record it.
The whole thing. No, it's fine. But come on, you can take us out, man. You the guy.
All right, so that's going to conclude our first bonus episode 3 of the Guys Podcast with our special guest. Thank you so much, Pastor Kevin Pullam, for joining us today or tonight. It was a pleasure having you. You definitely showed a lot of insight on the relationship and everything else as well. Yeah, it was very amazing. So thank you again, guys. Like always, please leave some feedback for the boys. Last week our comment section was booming. It was amazing connecting with everybody and discussing their views on our topics. So once again, shout out to everyone that commented. Thank you for that. And go ahead, sign it off. And we'll see you guys next week. Actually, episode 3 will be coming.
It's the same time. It'll be at the same time. So once this is out, that'll also be out.
So Chris.
Yeah.
You know I always have a question, right?
What?
This episode was pretty fire, wasn't it?
It was. It was pretty good. It's a little lengthy, so hopefully people will get to this point. But that's
if you guys have ideas and things you'd like to see us implement on the show, man, at the Guys Podcast at AOL.com. The Guys Podcast at AOL.com.
We appreciate
Send us some ideas, feedback.
Yeah. I laughed at y'all last week. Y'all talked about like how y'all get AOL. It's like I got AOL for like 35 years already.
Well, signing out, y'all.
You guys. Thank you for joining us.
Peace.